In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a fuel injector on your G35 Infiniti. Using a 10mm socket, we're going to undo or loosen the nut on the negative cable and remove that, and then just tuck it down to the side. Using a 10mm socket, we're going to remove the 2 nuts and 2 bolts for the engine cover. And remove the engine cover. Push the tab on top of the MAF connector and remove that. There should be an air box right here. The previous owner has deleted that and put in this pod filter. We're going to remove this pod filter. Using a 10mm socket, undo the bolt. Using an 8mm socket, loosen the clamp. Remove the 10mm bolt. Pull the intake off. Under this, there's going to be a hose. Squeeze the clamp, pull it back, and pull the hose off, and remove the intake. Remove the connector for the throttle body. Pinch the tab on the side and pull the connector off. Using a 5mm hex head, you should remove all 4 bolts for the throttle body. Take it off and then just rest it up on the side. None of our bolts are going to be coming out, so we're going to take the coolant hoses off of the throttle body. Get the vacuum hose clamp off the top of the throttle body, and then remove that hose. Remove the 10mm bolt. Slide that back. There should be 2 bolts in here. I believe they would be 10mm. Ours are missing. We're just going to kind of pull that backwards. You don't want to put a lot of tension on that line because it's a fuel rail. Remove the clamp and pull this hose off of the intake manifold. Remove the 10mm bolt for that harness bracket. Remove the 10mm bolt for that harness bracket. There's a 10mm bolt right here for one more harness bracket. While we're here, we're going to undo the connector for the VVT. One more 10mm for a bracket. This would be a bracket as well, tied to right here. To remove that bolt, ours is broken inside. And then there's one more in the back here, just under the harness. We're going to take that one out as well. Remove all of the 10mm bolts on the upper intake. Lift up on the cover. Lift up the cover. If you're going to be taking off the coolant hoses, there's going to be a clamp right here. These should be pressure clamps. It looks like somebody's been here before. So we're going to undo that clamp, then pull the hose off. And when we do this, there will be coolant that goes everywhere. So we're going to make sure there's a rag or something down. Remove the hose. On the bottom of the throttle body, this clamp is supposed to be up here. Pinch it and move it to its position now. And then remove the hose. And then remove the upper intake. Remove these 10mm bolts. I'm going to pull that plate out. Remove the 10mm nuts off the front and the back of the intake plenum. Loosen this clamp, pull it back, and pull this hose off of the lower intake. Remove the lower intake. I'm going to take this gasket out, put it to the side. Remove all 4 12mm bolts on the fuel rails. Remove the side of the rail that you need to be able to get to the injector you're replacing. In our case, it's going to be this side. Using a flathead screwdriver, pull this clip off that holds the injector to the rail. Undo the connector for the injector. Make sure you have a rag under this before you pull it out. Remove the injector from the rail. Install the new injector into the rail. Install the clip around the injector. Install the rail assembly. And push it down into place. Make sure all of the O-rings seat. Install the bolts for the rail. The same thing on the other side. Snug all of the bolts down. Install the connector to the injector. Go ahead and clean up this mating surface. Use a bit of parts cleaner and a clean rag and clean it up once you're done scraping it. Then you can remove all of your towels or stoppers or whatever you have. On the bottom of the lower intake, we're going to clean up this mating surface as well. Use a scraper and then a bit of parts cleaner and a clean rag. Clean up any of the oil residue. Install the gasket. And install the lower intake. Install the gasket and this plate. I'm going to start these bolts by hand. Install the nuts on the studs for the lower intake on the front and the back. And then I'm just going to snug everything down. Torque these bolts to 10 foot-pounds. Install the PCV hose to the lower intake. And we're going to pinch that clamp and move it back. Clean the mating surface on the upper intake and then hit it with a bit of parts cleaner and a clean rag. Install the intake in place, but before we do that, install the bottom hose. Pinch the clamp and move it into place. Pull the upper cover into place and install this coolant line onto the throttle body. Install the hose and move the clamp up and then tighten it down. Install the connector for the throttle body. Push until you hear a click. Install the hose to the purge valve. Grab the clamp, slide it forward. Install the vacuum hose. Grab the clamp, slide it over. The 3 longest bolts go in these back 3 holes. The second largest bolts go in these next 3 holes. And one more goes right here. Go ahead and snug them down. I'm going to put our short bolts in, going around. Go around and snug down all of the bolts. There's a torquing sequence for this, and we're going to torque them to 10 foot-pounds. It's going to be number 1. This is 2. 3. 4. 5. 6, it's going to be 7, 8 is going to be all the way in the back here, 9 is right next to the throttle body on top, this is 10, 11, we're going to go to 12 and 13. 14. It's 15. 16. 17. 18. Install the bolt for the purge valve bracket. And snug it down. Install the bolt for the wiring harness bracket. Snug that down. Install the 10mm bolt for the harness bracket. Install the vacuum hose onto the intake, and we're going to move that clamp up. Install the intake onto the throttle body. Snug the clamp down. Install the bolt for the intake bracket. Snug that down. If you have an air box, install that now. We only have the pod filter, so we're just going to install the bracket for that. Install the connector to the mass airflow sensor. Install the engine cover. There's 2 studs in the front. 2 back bolts. Snug them down. Grab your negative cable, put it on the terminal, and snug it down.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.